to another edition of the Saturday Scares. I'm your host, Scary Bops. Let's get into some scary stories. Everybody loves a good scare, shall we? My 4-year-old said he wished people didn't have to knock to get in the house. I told him, well, we have doorbells, and he asked, can we install one on his window? A daughter was in her room busy with homework when she heard her mother call her name. Dinner was ready. She jumped onto her feet and began making her way downstairs when suddenly a pair of hands grabbed her and pulled her in the laundry room beside the staircase. She started to panic before she realized it was her mother, unusually weepy with bloodshot eyes. Don't go down there. I heard it too. On one stormy night, I was driving on a rural back road with 3 of my friends. It was late and we were heading home after a hiking trip. The roads surround us in woods and deep fields on all sides, and besides our lights, the moonlight was the only thing to show us the path of the road. All of a sudden, I started to slow down, and we all looked to the side of the road as we saw a woman standing there wearing a white dress. We were concerned and pulled over to see if she was okay. My friend rolled down the window asking if she was okay, but she didn't respond. Then again he said, "Miss, are you okay?" But no response. A few minutes later, the woman turned and faced us, and her eyes appeared to be pitch black and no emotion. Then all of a sudden, she let out a shriek. It was so loud, it was cold down the spine type of scream that she let out. We drove off terrified with that image embedded in our memories of what we just heard. We were just like looking at each other and we said, what the hell was that? What did we just see? We continued on, but the car remained in silence as we kept to our thoughts. We all felt an unease. And once we got to the area that had cell service, we called and reported the incident to the police. They said they would check it out, but they seemed skeptical on what we witnessed. And as we stopped into a nearby town, we asked around with locals about that area and anything strange about it. One of the locals said that the lady was looking for her child on the side of the road and was hit by a truck. And they never found the child, and they only found her body on the side of the road.
I lived in a small apartment for most of my 20s, as it was all that I could afford since I lived alone. My complex was small and only had 6 total apartments in it. Most of the people living there were older and retired, and kept to themselves. I actually liked the fact that I didn't have to interact with any of them every time that I needed to go in or out of the complex, as I'm usually in a rush or just not in the mood to socialize. Anyways, I lived on the top floor, and the room across from me had an old couple living there for almost 2 years before they moved out. I never talked to them, so I didn't really care, to be honest. But several months go by before someone new moves in, and another 2 weeks went by before I actually met them. I was getting ready for work one morning and preparing my packed lunch when I hear the neighbor's door open. I didn't think much of it until another minute went by and I realized that I never heard the door close. I finished getting ready and put my shoes on, then opened my door to leave. I immediately noticed that the neighbor's door was still open, and a tall man in his 40s or 50s was standing right outside the door facing me. He smiled and introduced himself. I faked a short smile and told him my name, then said I had to go to work and began walking past him. But as I started down the stairs, he asked me to come in for a little bit and have breakfast with him. This was really weird, as I had just told him that I needed to go to work. But I just said sorry and continued down the stairs and out of the complex. While I was at work that day, I thought about how strange the interaction was. Thankfully, when I got back home, I was able to get into my apartment without any interactions. But the next morning, I woke up to a knock at the front door. I was really annoyed because I had work today and now I was up early, but I quickly got dressed and opened the front door. My neighbor was there, but strangely he was standing right in front of his open door again. He asked me to join him for breakfast again, to which I obviously declined and told him in a more aggressive manner to not knock on my door so early. The man didn't seem very happy about my answer and just kinda stood there. Then he said that I didn't have to leave for work for a while and I had enough time to eat with him. I knew that there was something wrong with this guy, as there was a lot about that response that was creepy. I firmly said no and then backed away and closed my door, making sure to lock it. Again, the more I thought about this guy, the more creepy and disturbing the interactions seemed. The rest of the day went by as usual though, and I got home around 6. I made some dinner and watched a movie, and got ready for bed around 11. I laid in bed for a while, thinking about my creepy neighbor and wondering what to do about it. I decided that if anything else happens, I'd contact the owner of the complex and have him talk to the guy. Then I leaned over and turned off my lamp and tried to fall asleep. But a few minutes later, I heard the neighbor's door creak open. I waited silently, listening to what the guy was doing, but I couldn't hear anything else. Again though, I never heard the door close. I was pretty nervous, unsure of what the man could possibly be doing this late at night. Eventually though, I drifted asleep due to not hearing any further noises for over an hour. I'm not sure how long I slept before a loud knock at the door woke me up. But these knocks didn't come from my front door. They were at my bedroom door. I shot up, completely terrified, and turned on the lights. The only thing I had to defend myself with was a small screwdriver on my nightstand. I grabbed it and stood next to my bed, shaking in fear, before picking up my phone and calling 911. When they arrived at the front door, I quickly got out of my room and opened it. I was surprised the door was even shut, but I told the officers everything and all about my suspicions of the neighbor. Unfortunately though, there was no real evidence of a break-in, and they couldn't do much at all. I knew what I heard was real though, and I did not feel safe in my apartment anymore. I called my sister later that day, and she agreed to let me stay at her place for a few days. Those days went by quicker than I hoped though, and I started driving back to my apartment on Saturday evening. I tried to stay calm, assuring myself that the guy had given up by now, and everything would be okay. I pulled into the parking lot and made my way into the building. The sun had just set, so the staircase was dim. I slowly made my way up, trying to stay quiet as to not let my neighbor know that I was coming up. Once I reached the top, I saw his door was closed and I got a big sense of relief as I quickly made my way through my door and locked it behind me. I dropped my bag in the hallway and turned on the lights as I turned the corner into my living room. I jumped back screaming as the man was sitting right on my couch staring at me with a wide, awful smile. I sprinted out of the entire complex and into my car, then called the police again and waited for them in a nearby parking lot. When they arrived about 10 minutes later, we drove up to the complex and they went into the apartment while I waited by my car. Surprisingly, they came out just a minute later with the man in handcuffs. They said he was still sitting on the couch and that they also found a small knife in his pocket. The most disturbing part of this whole situation, though, was that when he was questioned, he admitted to breaking in 3 separate times, and I only knew about the 2 incidents, which meant that at one point he was hiding in my apartment, probably watching me without me even knowing.